like
अच्छा
Good evening, Mr. Pradhan. Mr. Pradhan, you can hear me? Hello, Mr. Praveen.
हाँ जी सर, गुड इवनिंग, कैसे हैं?
बस
Good
बढ़िया,
evening,
आप
sir.
कैसे?
Good evening, both Praveen ji.
नमस्कार
Good
नमस्कार राजू
evening.
जी।
One is double E, one is I. That is there.
चलिए, बाकी लोग अभी ज्वाइन कर रहे होंगे मेरे ख्याल से, और जल्दी, बड़ा अच्छा।
Yes,
Yeah,
the people are gradually joining.
करेक्ट। हाँ,
I'd spoken to Professor Rashti. She'll also be coming in any moment now.
यस, दैट्स राइट। तो संचित अग्रवाल जी और अशोक धर जी ने ज्वाइन कर लिया है।
Ashok Dhalji ne kar liya, that's something good. Because we are, she's all the way in Japan. Niharika is all the way in Japan.
राइट।
So we have, and Mr. Mathur and Mr. Pradhan has agreed that first we'll have her, because then it will be great for her.
करेक्ट।
The youngest.
So Mr. Manik and Shyams or
Pradhan sir, would you like to just ping Professor Rashti?
Perhaps, yeah. She'll be joining. No, don't worry.
Okay.
Hello, Dal Sahab. Hello, Dal Sahab.
गुड इवनिंग सर।
Good evening, Dal Sahab. Good evening. Look,
क्या हाल चाल है आपके?
fine, sir. Fine. Welcome, Dr. Rushdi.
सॉरी,
Welcome, Dr. Rushdi. Good evening. Good
good
evening, ma'am.
evening, good
Good
evening.
evening.
गुड इवनिंग एवरीबॉडी, गुड इवनिंग एवरीबॉडी।
You have really a long life. We were just talking about you and you joined us.
मैं
Good evening, Professor Praveen Kumar here.
सर, गुड इवनिंग, अशोक ढल हियर एंड आई बीन टीचिंग फॉर क्वाइट सम टाइम। से लोग मेरे को प्रोफेसर बना देते हैं। मैं हूँ प्रोफेसर नहीं, वैसे मैं बहुत सिंपल आदमी हूँ।
The professors बहुत सिंपल होते हैं।
बिल्कुल, महिला जी ने सही कहा। स्टूडेंट कॉम्प्लिकेट बना देते हैं।
जी।
नहीं, आजकल स्टूडेंट बड़े तेज हो गए सर जी, बहुत तेज हो गए। वो हम लोग को घुमाने की कोशिश ऐसे करते हैं कि घूम जाए, मगर हम घूमते नहीं, क्योंकि हम भी बहुत सालों से पढ़ा रहे हैं ना, तो हम घूमते नहीं है। बिकॉज देयर सर्टेन रिस्ट्रिक्शंस व्हिच वी हैव टू डू मैनेज विद, बट
Right.
course has to be completed, has to be understood by the students, and has to be, main thing which you're facing, problem which you're facing today is that the student has to be good enough to pass. And that is, the course is not so easy. In some of the classes, the course is not easy at all.
Correct.
You're right.
I mean, junior level classes first year, second year में तो फिर भी चलो ठीक है, लिख के पास हो जाएंगे. but third year classes and find an MBA or postgraduate classes, course is not
So,
easy.
Naila ji, are the classes now on fully
Oh yes, we have started offline.
physical?
But it is in hybrid mode. We are continuing
Right.
with online partly.
Correct.
But
Where
from
are you?
March second week we'll go completely offline.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Now we have started an IMRT. We have started fully offline.
Oh, very good.
That's great.
With all
Yeah.
the protocols now, because from yesterday again there is a surge.
Yes,
in
yes.
7 states.
7 states are now there. There was some news
There
from
are lots of
Lavatnier
professors
College.
today.
What news, sir?
I am saying there are lots of professors today who are parents, the moderator, and for that purpose, first 2 years of my career, I was also a senior lecturer with the Kumar University.
Yeah, very good, very good. So I still think that you should once in a while take classes, sir.
Let's,
That he
Mr.
has
Dilip
been.
Kumar is here. One small intro of Mr. Dilip Kumar. I was talking to him this morning. He has been a father, and more importantly, since his wife unfortunately expired almost 31 years back, he's also acted as a mother. So interaction with Mr. Dilip Kumar and his son would be something fantastic, because that's a rare, where Mr. Dilip Kumar, and with his busy schedule with the electricity board, where he was chief engineer later on, I believe, Professor, you may, when you are moderating, take this into account, because he has been a mother and a father both for the kids, his three
I
kids.
still I know him from LMA actually. He's been a very old member of LMA,
Yeah.
and I'm also a very old member, one of the starting members of LMA. So I keep on meeting him, but sometimes dates and things don't match together. So initially, LMA used to have an office in Bhatnagar.
Yes. Thanks.
Those were the days. Yeah.
Those were the days. Previously, the office was, I had an office in my home. Then first time we shifted a office in Bhatnagar.
Correct.
Ji.
He is one of the founder member. In fact, Mr. Dilip Kumar.
जी मालूम मेरे को मालूम है.
Perhaps the period wise, I would be the junior most. I shifted from Bombay only 5 years back.
Listen, there's no junior most, senior most over here. So everybody has his or her own caliber, and we respect each and every person's caliber. Namaskar, Dilip Kumar ji.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. Thanks.
Namaskar, Dilip sahab. Vipin ji,
नमस्कार.
दिलीप जी नमस्कार.
Vipin ji,
नमस्कार सर. नमस्ते.
उस दिन आपसे आई में मुलाकात हुई, लेकिन वो आप थोड़ा बात नहीं हो भाई मेरी.
कोई बात नहीं, आप आए, हमारे यही बड़ी बात है सर.
नहीं सर, बड़ा अच्छा प्रोग्राम था उस दिन. आए मतलब वो तो that was really very good. Full packed house, full था उस दिन तो.
हाँ, आईआई के मेंबर्स के इंटरेस्ट का था एक्चुअली वो.
बिल्कुल.
उनके परिवार में कई समस्याएं आती ही हैं.
करेक्ट.
और उनके क्या, हम सभी के परिवार में आती है, चाहे वो एलएमए को परिवार मान लें, चाहे हम किसी और को परिवार मान लें, हर एक के अप एंड डाउन आते हैं.
परिवार है, समस्या भी है, प्यार भी है, समस्या भी, दोनों ही है.
वो तो जहाँ परिवार है तो वहाँ समस्याएं तो होंगी साहब. ऐसा कौन सा परिवार है जो परफेक्ट होता हो. चलिए बढ़िया है सर. और प्रधान जी के आने के बाद तो फिर चीजें अच्छी इंप्रूव हो रही हैं. आई एम वेरी हैप्पी.
विपिन जी, वेलकम विपिन साहब. विपिन जी,
विपिन गुप्ता साहब नमस्कार.
Has joined.
विपिन जी नमस्कार. विपिन जी
नमस्कार सर.
विपिन जी, आप क्या
बहुत
कम बैक
ऑडियो ऑन करिए विपिन जी. विपिन सर. Yeah, yes, Mr. Mittal is also joining us.
Oh, great.
Pragati Mittal.
But where is Pragati? Mittal ji is there. Where is Pragati?
Any moment she will join.
See, with these conferences, I am making a lots of friends, which I should be meeting otherwise also.
Sure. Now we have started physical meetings, so let us meet.
So let us.
Otherwise,
yes, of course. And we have got now a good premises where large hall is also there.
Yes, definitely.
Mr. Pradhan, you are listening?
Very much. In fact, I stand for it. Welcome Niharika. She's joining. Yeah, that's great. She's the first first achiever to join, in fact, I must say.
So we can start on the dot, Mr. Pradhan. You will kindly.
Yeah, fine. Let me see if all the achievers at least join us. Welcome, Niharika.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good
Hello,
evening,
Niharika.
beta. Good evening, beta. It's great to see you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited.
Oh, that's
मेरी
great.
अशोक ढाल पे भी शक्ल
Oh,
आ रही है,
welcome,
लगी आ
Arush.
रही
You are
है।
also there. Welcome, Arush.
Hello, sir. Hello, hi.
Welcome, Arush. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Arush.
Hi, ma'am.
Off the record, why
Good
should
evening,
we
Arush.
have a Zoom
Good
meeting
evening, sir. Good evening.
where these kids, I would say use the word kids because they are children, they may take a meeting of their parents.
अनुराग को फोन करके कहो कि ऑनलाइन आ जाए, कह दो कि और लोग आ चुके हैं। बिना इन लोगों के अचीवर्स के आए हुए चालू नहीं होगा।
आप ठीक कह रहे हैं दिलीप साहब, बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं। Once all the 5 achievers join,
Mr. Pradhan, am I also audible?
yeah,
Yes,
now
sir.
audible, sir. Now audible, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Now very much audible.
I'm just.
You could come back from Delhi. Yet told me that you'll be traveling. Vipinji.
Oh, no, I'm very much in Lucknow, sir.
Good.
So I'm only actually waiting for my son to join in. So I've been reminding him that you have to be present, on the Zoom meeting at 6 o'clock.
Don't worry, children are more responsible these days than we were.
Yeah.
विपिन जी
At the
नमस्कार।
same time,
Anurag is also joining us, has also joined. Yeah, that's great.
ज्वाइन कर लिया।
So now the third achiever has also joined us, Mr. Anurag Bhatnagar.
Hello,
That's
good
great.
evening, everyone.
Hello, good evening, beta. Good evening, welcome. Good evening and welcome. That's great to see you. Now we wait for only 2 more achievers to join us, Mr. Manik and Mr. Shesh Johari. 2 more are awaited, whereas another 2 minutes are also left.
I'm sorry, I'm having a cup of tea.
You are lucky enough to have these.
Sorry, I think it's a tea time.
It's a tea time that's some great.
Yeah.
No, I can't offer you all, sir. No, that's what I'm sorry about.
Ashok, I saw your cup. Ashok, I saw your cup, then I asked my people to give me also. This is my cup,
Virtually, you can give us.
Okay. Virtually, we're always there for you, sir.
You too can make cheers.
Yeah. In fact, Pradhanji's office is very next to very close to my college, IMRT.
Correct. Very correct, sir. Very correct.
There's Mansi. Mansi is a student with which
ILM.
Yeah, she seems to be from.
our target audience has also started coming in. That's what we are looking for.
Good evening.
I hope Manik is joining us shortly.
Yeah, he should be. I have been reminding him. He said, he'll be available because he's going to join in from Bombay, actually.
Oh, no, I can
so
understand.
He said he would be available at 6 o'clock.
Very correct. Very good. Fine. So as we are waiting for Shreyas also and Mr. Rajan Johari, the parent, of course. 2 more yet to join. It is all exactly 6 now.
नहीं यार, काफी लोग जन हो गए, अनुराग नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है।
Professor, should we have another 2 minutes?
Yes, I think we should wait for another 2 minutes.
Hello, Neela ji.
Hello, Vipin sir. How are you? Of course, I remember very well.
Okay. It's a great pleasure to meet you on the screen today.
Yes, thank you so much. Same here.
विवेक गुप्ता, आर यू लिसनिंग मी?
दिलीप जी क्या हाल है?
अरे ठीक है, बहुत दिनों बाद तुम्हारे दर्शन हो रहे हैं, एटलीस्ट वर्चुअली हो रहे हैं।
परसों तो मिले थे अभी आई की मीटिंग में। मैं और प्रवीण जी भी थे।
जी हाँ।
We were there.
मैं चला गया थोड़ा।
हाँ, उस समय थोड़ा सा मैं ज्यादा बिजी था एक्चुअली।
Dilip sir was organizer of the host of the.
Yes, he was the host. लेकिन क्या दिलीप साहब वो तो खाली टीम मीटिंग थी, बहुत जल्दी भूल गए आप।
हाँ दोबारा बहुत से लोग बिना खाना खाए भी चले गए, ऐसे चले गए, तो लगा रहता है सारी तरह के प्रोग्राम में। और नेचुरल भी है, जो लोग विदाउट मिसेज आए थे तो वो डर भी रहे थे खाना खाने में।
प्रवीण सर, क्या आप राजन जौहरी जी को रिमाइंड कराएंगे?
Good evening, everybody.
हाँ, गुड इवनिंग मिराज साहब, गुड इवनिंग मिराज साहब, गुड इवनिंग मिराज साहब, वेलकम।
आप लोग कैसे हैं? How are you?
बस फाइन, थैंक यू सर।
It's a wonderful initiative, and I must compliment you for having taken up this. So nice.
It is all the combined efforts of all the members and who help us and who all the time join us while making all such efforts.
Wonderful.
Login kar rahe? Okay. Acha, Manik is also trying to log in now.
Great, sir. Great.
Acha, I would told that there would be number of students.
Quite nice. Around 30 people have.
In all, we are 13 now. Yeah, ILM students, few ILM students have.
The students are there?
Yes, students are there and more are joining.
They are joining.
Yeah, more are joining.
They are joining. I can see them on the screen here. I think if Dr. Rushdi permits, agrees, shall we start at 6:05?
Yes, I think we should start because Niharika will get late.
We have to adhere to the time, stick to the timings very strictly. We can start. I think we should agree on. So welcome to you and all.
Yeah.
And please kindly mute yourself.
Mr. Rajiv, I think there is some problem with your mic. Yeah, now it's okay.
Now it's okay.
Now it is okay. ठीक है, हाँ.
Hear me now? Am I audible? Clear now? Okay. Well, I request everybody to mute yourself when
हमें ये वो रखना है. Audible या वैसे वो करना है.
दिलीप साहब, आप म्यूट कर लें अभी अपने आप.
अभी हाँ कर रहा हूँ, म्यूट कर रहा हूँ सर.
मेरी गुजारिश है कि म्यूट कर लें. विपिन जी से भी गुजारिश है कि म्यूट कर लें. When it is your turn, then kindly unmute yourself and then go ahead. That will be fine for all. Please.
I've just spoken to Mr. Johari. He has got some problems with the internet, but his son is logging in any moment now.
Fine. Meantime, with the permission of moderator, we go ahead with the things.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
We go ahead. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So, Mr. Manik has also joined. Welcome, Mr. Manik. And good evening. Welcome, Manik. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rajiv Pradhan here on behalf of Lucknow Management Association and welcome you all this evening for the second edition of Inspirational Interaction with Achievers in LMA Family. As I just mentioned, this is the second edition. In the first session, we had 5 achievers. And today again, we have another 5 achievers out of the LMA family. Very special and warm welcome to such achievers. I'll name them today. Mr. Manik Gupta, Mr. Anurag Bhatnagar, Ms. Nihari Kadal, Mr. Shreyas Johari, and Mr. Arush Mohit Mittal. And of course, the proud parents who are the LMA members as well. So welcoming, while once again, everyone, I must just inform you that this program, this session is in collaboration with ILM. The director, Dr. Naila Rushdi, will be moderating this session. I'll request now Mr. Praveen Kumar, our member, LMA member, to say a few words about Dr. Naila Rushdi. Over to Mr. Praveen Kumar.
Thank you, Rajiv. Let me first thank all the students which have joined in from IILM. I believe the thanks go to them also. And now coming to Professor Naila Rashdi, I'll be just repeating what we did in how we introduced her in the first session, which was a few days back. Professor Rashdi is a certified financial planner from Financial Planning Standards Board, doctorate in Lucknow University in management and MBA in finance. Of course, once I've said doctorate, then MBA does not matter. She has been teaching over 20 years in finance and accounting to postgraduate management students, and she has been with IILM Lucknow for over 14 years. Her core interest areas are investment behavior, which is something which we also need to learn, and financial planning. Yes, of course. So that's, I would request with this, Professor Rashdi to take over. And now, Professor Rashdi, only my request is that we are trying to finish the session within about 1 hour. So keeping time, of course, Mr. Pradhan would be helping you with keeping the time, and Mr. Praveen Dwivedi also. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Praveen. Welcome to all the listeners of this wonderful second edition of this event. A very brilliant initiative by LMA. We have such diamonds in the family, and we have not been able to listen to them, to their journeys, to their challenges, and it's a very proud moment, I would say, for me to be addressing you and to be interacting with these inspirational people. My only humble request is that to the 5 achievers particularly is that the audience is very interested in listening to about your journey. So basically, where you come from, what challenges you encountered in your journey so far, and maybe a little bit about what is your plan for the future. Something which will, of course, inspire these youngsters who are about 20, 21-year old who are listening to us. And of course, the parents will introduce you. I will request brevity from the parents also, because we need to complete the entire session in 60 minutes, and 5 people means about 10 minutes to each, including the parent introduction. Since Niharika is with us from Japan and they are ahead of us about 3.5 hours, so it's already late night, and we'll start off with Niharika. Miss Professor Ashok Dhal, you are you are most welcome to introduce your daughter to us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Doctor. I would like to introduce my daughter Niharika Dhal. She was born and brought up in Lucknow, studied in Namatnia, and always wanted to remain a part of India. She went to Symbiosis Law School and then became a lawyer. I didn't want to say it, but we had no provision for a lawyer in a family, but she became a lawyer. Then she went to Germany for her master's in international dispute and came back to India, started working in Delhi. Then she shifted to Mumbai and to San Francisco, and now she's in Japan. She's working as a counselor for Toyo Engineering Corporation and manages international dispute. This is a small introduction for Niharika Dhal. Niharika Dhal, you may now start. Thank you.
Niharika, you are on mute. Can you please unmute yourself?
Well, Niharika, please unmute yourself.
Thanks.
Carry on.
Thanks, Papa, and thanks, Dr. Rashdi. Thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here and introduce myself and talk to everyone. And I don't know if I have anything inspiring to say at all, but I'm happy to share some part of my journey. So I work as counsel for Toyo Engineering, and this is an engineering and construction company headquartered in Japan, which specializes in building industrial projects. So we build things like water treatment plants, nuclear power plants, solar plants, transportation systems, manufacturing plants, refineries, etc. And as I said, I'm in the headquarter, but Toyo has 9 companies all over the world, and I work on different projects that are ongoing. So my work involves two kinds of things. The first is I negotiate contracts for the company. So for instance, if we have a project coming up in India, which is a power plant being built by IOCL, our company will construct the plant, and I'll try and negotiate the contract in a way that it is fair. And even if it's not fair, it protects our company to the best outcome possible. That's the first part of what I do. That's contract management and planning. And to be honest, I don't need law so much for that, but it's helpful to know how to negotiate contracts. The second part of what I do is what my training was in. That's international disputes. So a lot of the projects, they have problems that come up, mostly related to time and cost. So for instance, if you're building a power plant and it doesn't finish in the time allotted to it, there are questions about who pays for the delay and how do we complete the project, and a lot of small issues like equipment being delayed, people not being able to go to the construction site because of COVID, for instance. So a lot of these problems we try and solve by just writing letters and writing lengthy arguments about why we are right and the other person's wrong. But sometimes when there's a lot of cost involved, we go to arbitration and solve the problems through international arbitration. That's a little bit about what I do. The challenges that I faced in reaching Japan from a very long route of India, Germany, the US, and then Japan, a lot of the challenges relate to law as a specific field. So I'm not very sure if it'll be helpful because law requires registration as a lawyer. And I mean, those challenges are unique to law. So I'll try and focus a little bit more on the personal challenges that I faced. One of the interesting things that I noticed in all of my work experiences everywhere were the differences in culture at the workplace. So, for instance, in India, lawyers tend to have a very differential approach to seniors. And this is not true for workplace relationships in the US and Germany. So in both US and Germany, I was in California, so I can only speak to that area. But in both places, juniors address their seniors on first name basis and are actually encouraged to argue and debate and question what the senior is saying. Even if you're not really sure, you're still encouraged to think critically and ask questions and say that no, maybe there's a different approach, let's talk about it. But coming back to Japan, it took me a while to readjust because here the approach is more like India, and there are a few cultural practices at the workplace which are quite unique. For instance, I have noticed that my Japanese colleagues very rarely disagree with the head of the department. And there are certain allowances that are given to me as a foreigner. So the same rules don't necessarily apply to me. But I have noticed a more differential approach in interrelationships and the way you talk to people, again, in Japan. And it has a lot of the, this is something I can relate to, but in Lucknow, how we address everybody as aap, show respect and recognize where they have come from and the experience that they bring to the table. So Japan follows a similar approach, and it was something I could relate to, but it was still an adjustment from the US, where you're having salad with your boss and calling your boss James just by the first name, even though he's 65 or even early 70s. So it was quite an adjustment, to be honest. Germany is even worse. In Germany, my professors, head of department, teachers, lawyers, they all interacted, went on a ski vacation together, everyone just chilling together. And that was quite unique for me, to be honest. So I've noticed a lot of these cultural differences that you need to adjust to. And The plus side is, of course, that once you become used to recognizing these differences, people realize that you're good at international relationships. So when there's a project where there are people from different countries, I'm the first one to be staffed, I've noticed. So I'm glad about that. But it is a challenge, trying to keep up with the changes. The other challenge I faced throughout my career, in fact, even now I do, is not knowing what to prioritize at the workplace. Like, for instance, when I'm changing jobs or thinking about what to push in my career, I don't know whether to look for the perfect boss or the perfect location or the perfect company or the perfect salary. And it's all, you can't have everything. You have to choose. And you don't really want to be with the horrible boss with the great salary, because I mean, how long can you last at that company? And you don't want to be, for instance, at a Google but doing work that is completely uninspiring, because work gives you purpose. So that was a struggle that I never really had answers to, and I've been going through. And it's a process of learning that is a challenge that I've faced. But having traveled around and worked in different places, I can say that even now, I don't really know what success means. So I'm not sure what advice to really give. I tend to vacillate on the exact meaning. My current meaning for the word success is having a competitive edge. So, in keeping with that, the advice I can give is have a yearly plan to upskill. So, for instance, for 2021, my plan is to qualify for the California bar and become a US qualified lawyer. That's my first upskill plan. And the second is to teach a course at a law school on contract negotiations. So, I have two plans and I have a year to try and achieve them. And that's something that everyone should do. Try and make a plan for a year. You may or may not meet it, but you should have a plan. The second is build a network. Whether you do it through LinkedIn, whether you do it in your city, through your college, it's really important to have a network in place that can support you, help you with job recommendations, advice. Whether or not you have the skills to interact with people is irrelevant, but try and build a network. And the last advice I have is be kind and inclusive. Do the small things like take your colleagues out for tea, buy them lunch sometimes. When you take vacations and go traveling, bring back some gifts. On a Friday, when you see a colleague overworked, try and ask if you can help them. And do those small things which, they may not really get you any promotion or anything for that matter, but it's going to add value to who you are at your workplace. So that's all I have to say. I hope some of it is useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Niharika. That was an amazing amount of wisdom coming out of somebody who's so young. And you've had tremendous experiences, and all the best to you for the future.
Thank you.
I'm sure the students would have gained quite a bit. I did from your brief talk.
Thank you. You've been very kind. Thank you.
So we move on to Mr. Manik Gupta, who is the son of Mr. Vipin Gupta. So, Mr. Vipin, you are requested to please introduce Manik to us.
Good evening, everyone. I am Vipin, member of LMA. I have great pleasure in introducing my son Manik. Like Niharika, Manik is also born and brought up at Lucknow, and he too had his education schooling at Lamartine College. And from Lamartine, he went to SRCC Delhi, from where he graduated. And then he did his post-graduation from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade in Delhi. So Manik almost left Lucknow after that, because there was a campus selection. He went to Singapore, and he has been traveling to different countries and gaining experiences in selling different commodities. For example, he was recruited by the company, which had the headquarters in Singapore, where he learned how to do the trading, in wheat and pulses and all these things. Then he moved to Dubai, where he learned how to do the trading of sugar. Then he went to Indonesia, Vietnam for coffee. Then he came to Europe, in Rotterdam, in Holland, where he was trained to become a trader in cotton. So after remaining there for a year or two, then he was transferred to Bombay, and now he is the company, head for the operations in India. So this is a little bit about Manik. Now I pass on the mic to him to, carry on.
Thanks, Papa, for the introduction, and you almost charted my journey over the last 17 years. Thank you, LMA, for having us, share a few thoughts next 5-7 minutes. So, as my dad mentioned that, I'm a wholesale product of Lucknow, studied in Lamatnia, so proud and of all my alma maters. In terms of my work profile, I've been working for the last 17 years in the field of agri-commodities trading. It's a relatively less understood area in India, but it's one of the most important essential sectors of the world, not just of India, because food is life, and we are in the vocation of buying and selling commodities and moving it from areas of deficit, from areas of surplus to areas of deficit, thereby fulfilling a very important essential need of all of us. So I'm very, very happy to be part of this industry. In terms of my journey, I worked in Singapore to start with, moved to Dubai, lived and worked in Indonesia, Vietnam, back to Singapore, lived in Europe for a few years. And then I've been settled in Mumbai for the last 9 years or so. So as Niharika mentioned, one of the biggest dividends of having traveled to a few countries and living in the few countries, it's the cultural nuances that you pick up, working with multicultural teams, interacting with, very senior people within the industry, within your company, and knowing them quite, I wouldn't say intimately, but seeing them from very close quarters and learning a lot from them, having a very informal sort of relationship. And I fully echo what Niharika said, that, there's no, there's no junior senior sort of relationship, and everybody tries to contribute their bit, be honest, frank, challenge each other, come to the best possible solution. And within our business, which is commodities trading, no one answer is right. And I think that's the beauty of this sector, that it changes almost on a minute-by-minute basis, not even on a daily basis. So the job is extremely dynamic, which is really, you wake up every morning and there's something new that has changed from the day before, which allows you an opportunity to grow and to contribute. So I think I'm extremely lucky to have been part of this sector, which is ever growing and ever changing. In India now, I've been in India for the last 9 years, and agriculture is it's a very, very old industry, but it's also a sunrise industry. A lot of you have read about the farm laws and how much disruption it is bringing to civil society. So agriculture is a sector which is so important, and I would urge the students of Management Institute who are part to explore the possibility of being part of the agri-business in India, being part of supply chain. There are so many different areas that one can be part of and be connected with the industry. So it's a less known industry. I have spoken earlier at other forums in LMA, trying to talk to management students and tell them that an industry like agriculture, commodity trading is a growing industry, and try to be part of it. The natural choice for management students is banking, FMCG, IT, but nobody really looks at agriculture commodity tradings because it's not a hi-fi industry. It's a very ground level based of industry, but it's extremely challenging, it's extremely interesting, and you can really make a difference being in India in this industry. One of the other things that I was asked to speak about is challenges. Now, for me, I don't know what is a challenge or what is an opportunity. For me, in the last almost 2 decades, I've taken up every challenge as an opportunity. I've literally lived out of my suitcase. When I was living overseas, I did not stay in a place without traveling for more than 2 weeks. I was traveling to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, to Iran, to Yemen, to Ethiopia, to all sorts of places, and places you wouldn't really like to have on your passport. But and I think for me, my biggest, I wouldn't call it achievement or anything, but my biggest dividend, I think, was that I was always ready to learn. I just had that adventurous streak in me. I wouldn't just care, whether I was going to Iran or Yemen or Jordan. I would just hop on a plane, just go there, look at things ground up, really soak into the culture, soak into what I was doing. And I think learning was one of the things that was so immense. Just 17 years, every day, I've learned something. And I think for me, being part of this industry provides me that opportunity to say that. So, professional challenges are the same in every job. You have to work in a sort of in a stressful environment, and especially in our industry where markets are very volatile, there are contractual issues. So work-related stress is part and parcel of professional life. But personal challenges, I think, I always had a challenge with, especially after I got married in 2009, challenge with personal, with travel, because I could not afford to travel so much with my, leaving my wife behind for days together. So that obviously, there was a little bit of normalcy after that. But I really don't think I encountered too many challenges. I think I was lucky to have very good bosses who allowed me, who threw me on the deep end, but also trusted me that he'll come out fine. And whenever I had anything, they were always there to help me. So I've been very lucky with good bosses who've reposed a lot of trust and faith in me. In terms of my plan for the future, now, honestly, I haven't had too much of a think about it, but I love the industry that I'm in. So I hope I can keep progressing in this industry. As a company, we, there's a lot that we can do in this sector in India. The farm laws is only the tip of the iceberg. What the farm laws could achieve. I think Indian agriculture has a huge, huge potential. In the next 20, 30, 50 years, we've come a long way from where we were in the 1960s to what we were today. We were a food deficit nation in not even 1960, even in 1980s, we were food deficit. And today we are food surplus. So our policies need to change in line with what we are today, not what we were 20, 30 years ago. And I think, there's a huge amount of innovation. There's a huge amount of pent up innovation and opportunity in Indian agriculture. And I hope, because I'm so passionate and so connected with this sector, I hope whatever I do in the future, I stay connected with Indian agriculture. That's really my plan for the future. In terms of advice, I think I'm really not sure if I'm qualified to give advice, but the only thing I will say is that for me, what worked was a constant, conscious attempt to keep learning. And I think, which is what I do even when I'm kind of handling India as a country for agricultural commodities. And for me, that's been, I think that's probably been the reason why I've lived in so many places, handled so many commodities, lived in worked with complex teams, and now been entrusted the job of handling the operations of India for my company. So I think I've probably taken more time that was allotted to me. So thank you very much once again for giving me the opportunity to talk to everybody.
Thank you so much, Manik. That was a fantastic short address, I would say. And I'll be extremely selfish and tell you right away to come to ILM for a guest session. And I'll be contacting you soon for that, because I'm sure there is a lot to learn in your field, and I think this is a road less traveled, I would say. And I'm sure we can hope to learn a lot. One thing common which both Niharika and Manik said was continuous learning. That is something which all of us need to focus on, because upskilling and keeping on learning is the way to go. Moving on, we have Mr. Dilip Kumar and his son, Mr. Anurag Bhatnagar. So, can you please introduce Anurag to us, Mr. Dilip?
Okay. Anurag is the son of a person whose life was full of hurdles and large number of challenges from the childhood to the end. The father, after passing the BSc, joined the Regional Institute of Technology at Jamshedpur and had degree in electrical engineering, and later joined UP State Electricity Board as an engineer. Okay. Anurag had a mother who died when he was only 7 years old in 1989, leaving behind for him father, two elder sisters, out of which one was severely mentally retarded and who died in October 19. Thus, Anurag grew under above family circumstances, and he was forced to change many schools due to transfers of his father. His family, after death of mother, was supported by domestic helps at Lucknow from 1992. Role of his father, whatever he is today, was minimum possible.
जैक साहब ठीक हूँ। ऐसा था कि कल मेरा वो जो सबड्यूरल हेमाटोमा का वो था, उसका अपॉइंटमेंट ड्यू था। वो रिव्यू एक के लिए बुलाया था।
Thank you. Please carry on. Please carry on, Dilip Kumar sir. Please carry on.
Okay.
Unmute हो गया.
Please.
Okay.
We have
Role of Anurag's father was minimum possible, say guidance only in studies and other things. He imbibed from his father sincerity in job towards employer, honesty in all walks of life, continuation of academic and skill development, and face challenges of life boldly and to help persons in need, etc. Anurag has faced large number of challenges in his personal life, especially during his posting in UK and USA and later at Bangalore since last 10 years. I feel proud in being father of a boy who loves his father and many ways much better than him. Thanks God for providing me such a child who is now my best insurance of life beyond my present age of 77 years. Okay, Anurag, start.
Thank you, Dad, for good, a quick introduction. And I think you covered a lot of stuff. So the story, I think if I would have asked him 15 years back or 16 years back when I was in class for doing my engineering, the story would not be the same, I would truly say. But today he can say these things. So just a quick introduction about me is I did my studies from Lucknow, from modern school. Post that, I did my engineering also from Lucknow. And then I started my career with Reliance Industries. I started as a telecom engineer. Post that, I moved to TCS. And from last 14 years, I have been in the IT industry. With TCS, I got opportunity to fly across, went to Canada and went to US, and then post that went to London. Got opportunities to work in different cultures like Niharika and Manik suggested, and they all already covered most of the aspects of working outside India. But from the last 10 years, I have been with Dell EMC. I'm working as a senior manager here. I've been a core developer for last 14 years. Just from last 2 years, I have moved into the management role. And this is coming up with a lot of new challenges, a lot of new concepts that management people learn and get chance to apply in their real life. So before I dive into the stories about how things wrapped up for me, uh, let me share something with you that what were the main challenges that came across in this journey for me. So when I started as a telecom engineer in Lucknow. So I was worked on the field. And when I say I worked in the field, I was actually installing broadband connections in the fiber optics setup and stuff. I was on the road. Exactly, I was on the road. And that taught me a lot more things than IT industries have taught me. So that gave me a good opportunity to understand a lot of calmness in me, a lot of interaction with customers, a lot of things that you learn from the field. It's very important. Post that, when I moved to the software industry, it was kind of a more of a formal industry, more of a thing that will require you to brush up your soft skills. You brush up your language, you brush up your coding skills. So that were the new challenges that I came up with in TCS and came across that very fast. As one thing that has always inspired me to learn as fast as possible, get into the suit as fast as possible. As Manik also mentioned, right? He was traveling left and right, but as soon as he landed into that place, he was in that zone. So try to get yourself in that zone as soon as possible, and you will start growing. And the last challenge was moving my gears from a developer to a manager role. Because when you're a developer, you focus just on coding. You're just working day in, day out, bringing a product up with your coding skills. But when you move into the management, you start managing people who are your friends. You start managing people, you don't know how to manage them because you need to understand their emotional quotients. You need to understand their potentials. You need to understand what are they going through and how you can help them, how you can do a servant leadership, how you can help each and every individual in your team to unlock the potential. So that was my challenge. Now, to go with that, I'll just want to share a quick story with you guys. Story is about a king. A king had a very beautiful garden. It was famous in India. And king was always thinking, I have such a beautiful garden. Why it is withering? Why I'm taking the best care in this world and it's going bad. He looks at his oak tree, pine tree, and grapes trees, like they are withering away. What's happening? So he called a sage, and sage was a person who can actually talk to the plants. And sage went and talked to the oak tree. Why are you withering away? You are getting a royal treatment here. The king is taking the best care in this world for you. And you know what oak tree said? He said, I'm not as high as pine tree, and that's why I don't feel good. Sage went to the pine tree and asked him that, what happened? Why are you withering away? You are such high, tall guy. And he said, I don't give as sweet grapes as the grape tree is giving. That's why I feel sad about it. And then Sage walked to the grape tree and asked, okay, dude, tell me, what is your problem? And he said, I can't blossom flowers like a rose plant. And Sage said, okay, this is a never ending process. And then he turned and he saw a sunflower, a small pot, a sunflower blooming. He went and asked him, what's the deal? Everybody is so sad they're withering away. You are still happy and growing. And he said, dear Sage, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. King planted me to be a sunflower, and I'm a sunflower. I'm trying to grow to my max potential and give King the happiness of the sunflower. So why I want to share this story with you is, it's important that you being true to yourself. That's the most important skill you need to learn in your life. And that's what will take you to your max potential. If you think that you are right ethically, morally, and socially, have the courage to break the prejudice. Have the courage to take the next leap of your life. Have the courage to build a new process for yourself. And you will see how you will unlock yourself. It's just not I'm saying these things. I have done these things in the last few years. I've successfully filed 10 plus patents in this journey. And just 4 things that has helped me in this journey is courage, the confidence, the calmness, and be composed about it. You need to get the full rush in yourself, but on the other side, you have to be calm for the results. So make sure you know how to do that and figure out why you are doing something, what you are doing, and how you will do it. So these are the 3 important things in whatever field you want to go. Whether you want to become a technologist, you want to become an artist, just find a mentor and a coach for yourself. Go ahead and just find what's best for you. So that's what I would say, and I would figure out in my next career also that am I able to inspire people? I'm able to lead people. Am I able to build teams that can potentially work best for my organizations? So that's my next vision for myself. And that's the best advice I think I can give on this honorable platform that LMA has given me. And I can't be more humble today and honored to speak on this forum today. You guys have any questions or any curiosity about industry of Dell technology, cloud computing, hardware, networking, any storage concepts, be happy to reach out to me and I'll do the best what I can help you. Thank you for giving me time to speak on this forum. And last, I cannot thank my dad for giving me this opportunity and the best he has given me in my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anurag. That was a wonderful address. And it is really heartwarming to see the way Mr. Dilip has raised you in such tough circumstances. And you turned out really nice. So struggles make us smarter. Struggles make us more humble, I think. And so I really like this thing you said about being yourself, what you are meant to be, and not pretending to be somebody else. That was a very good takeaway, at least for me. I'm sure the students would also understand this. Thanks a lot. Moving on to Dr. Rajan Johari. I would request you to please introduce your son, Shreyash.
If he is there, Dr. Rajan Johari, because I don't find him on the screen. Dr. Rajan Johari, if you're there, I can see Shreyas.
Is Shreyash there?
Shreyash is there, but I don't find Dr. Rushdi. If I can read out his.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Please go ahead.
In the absence of Dr. Rajan Johari, I'll read out whatever is available with us. Shreyas is an innovation enthusiast. Currently leads public health innovations and strategy for an international organization working closely with Government of Uttar Pradesh and large-scale donors such as Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and USAID. Previous to his current assignment, he served as an innovation and research commercialization consultant at the London School of Economics, during which he was responsible to guide academics at LSE to transform their research into scalable business ventures. He draws from his learnings and experiences as an entrepreneur while setting up his SaaS startup. His venture was incubated and funded by the Times Group, T Labs, and later acquired by Times Internet. Shreyas is always keen on mentoring and motivating ambitious entrepreneurs and business professionals. So this is all about Shreyas. Now over to Dr. Rushdi.
Hi, Dr. Rajan has joined us. So
that's great. That's great.
Hi, hello everybody.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sorry, sir. I had to read out whatever you provided.
Not at all. I think you read much better than I would have read.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's never there. It's never there.
It was a net connecting issue. So now that you have introduced Shreyash, let me just say a few words and then I think it will be over to Shreyash. Shreyash is the younger of my 2 sons. He was born at a time when I was working overseas and I used to be away traveling for long periods of time. I hardly saw him grow up. Every time I would return to base country, he would be taller by a few inches and doing more things than most children at his age. Therefore, Shreyash grew up more with experience than instruction. He studied for a few years at St. Francis College here in Lucknow in Sultanate of Oman, in Emirates, in DPS Delhi. He studied anthropology at Amity University and international business at the London School of Economics. He lived in London and worked for a few years before joining PATH, an international not-for-profit organization in healthcare. Currently, Shreyash is posted at Lucknow. Thank you, and over to you, Shreyash.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dad, Mr. Pradhan, for having me here. First of all,
Shreyas, can we see you? Can you put on
Mr.
your camera,
Pradhan,
please?
I have some bandwidth issues, so I won't be able to turn
Please
this
carry
on.
on.
Otherwise, I'll
Please carry on. Please carry on.
Thanks. Thank you. So I welcome all of the students here, ILM students. Thank you for joining this call. I hope I'll be able to contribute to what my friends and my peers have said already. There's a lot of commonality here in terms of achievement, challenges, opportunities. I think my friends here have already mentioned a lot of that, and it'll be very similar to what I'll say. But let me keep it very short and simple. You must have heard my the introduction from two people. Mr. Pradhan and my dad already introduced me. So I'll just quickly walk you through. So my work life started in 2013 when I started my own venture with a friend of mine who hails from Lucknow too. And we got together to, build a SaaS product that was one of its kind, kind of giving competition to one of the most famous organizations, SaaS organizations called Shopify. So we were an Indian version of Shopify, and we started off with nothing in hand, with just an idea, just a concept, and we walked into venture capitalists' offices and incubators, and tested ourselves out. Lots of rejection came through, and we learned a lot from it. But finally, we struck a deal with one of the investors called T Labs. It's a Times Group, incubator. We got funded, we got incubated. It was an accelerator, so we got a lot of learning from the professionals and the experts available in the industry. So from there on, I kind of started with just sheer experience of the field. As one of my colleagues here mentioned, being in the field literally means getting into the market, interacting with people, engaging with people, and kind of realizing the realities of what goes on and what customers actually mean and what they feel and how they interpret. Dr. Naila would be really interested in learning about this through me, because she's a behavioral finance person, right? If I'm not wrong. So this is what happens when you get into the field. You understand the social dynamics of a market, of a consumer, of a customer. So I was just thrown into that deep end, when I started out, trying to convert, trying to persuade people, trying to be smarter every day, trying to refine the product, on a daily basis. And that was great learning for me. Moving on to my next career choice, I felt that I was probably cut out for a little bit more academics. So I decided to move on, and I took an exit from the company in 2015. And I moved to London, joined the London School of Economics as a student. Of course, once you're an entrepreneur, you cannot get the entrepreneur out of you. You're always trying to innovate, trying to sell, trying to, kind of refine whatever you've built. And so I started interacting with a lot of people back there, had the opportunity to interact with a lot of academics, a lot of my professors, who would be interested in learning about some stories from India and the market there. Somehow I managed to impress some of them, and they decided to, get me on board at the London School of Economics and set up their innovation and commercialization office. Now, I don't know how many of you know what commercialization means, but commercialization is basically, research commercialization specifically means taking, a research product or a research, from a academic and bringing out the commercial viability of that research, and how can you, monetize that research into building new services or new products. So if you look at it, it was at the intersection of academia and business. So this is what I did for about 2 years. I was their innovation consultant. Again, thrown into the deep end, interviewing almost every professor back at the London School of Economics, trying to understand what commercial viability their research has. Got a lot of resistance, a lot of hesitation, a lot of rejection as well. But also had the opportunity to learn from these very senior academics who are best in their fields and potential Nobel laureates. So the motivation there, I would say, was when you're trying to guide a person of that stature and that experience, it gives you that thrill. I'm sure when you're at ILM also, when some of the professors speak, you might think that maybe this does not make sense. I have a better solution to that. And this was my opportunity, where I could actually express what I felt was right and might be more useful for them rather than the other way around. So that was one of the achievements I would say I've had in my lifetime. And I think some of the professors, actually took it very well, and they have commercialized their research. So this is an achievement for me, and I moved on from UK in 2019, came back to India by the later part of 2019, trying to explore opportunities here in India. As I worked as an innovation consultant, the downside was that innovation in India sometimes only means if you're an engineer or you're a IT professional, that is where innovation lies. But unfortunately, that's not the truth. Coming from a global exposure and learning from the best institutes in the world, there is much more. There is much more to innovation. So just a tip for everyone. Irrespective of whatever your undergraduation is, you can always look at alternative careers. You do not have to walk the straight path. You may be a BSc or a BA or a BCom. You can always get into something that you're passionate about. I was passionate about innovation right from the start as an entrepreneur till LSE, coming to India, and till date, I lead strategic innovation at Path, that is a technical consultant to the government of Uttar Pradesh, the Ministry of Health, where we are trying to strengthen the current public health systems of the state. And, there are lots of challenges, there are lots of opportunities, but, that's a universal truth. You go after an opportunity, there will always be challenges. The only, tip from that, I would like to give you just a hack, maybe, if you like to call it. I would say, if you learn how to organize yourself well, just yourself well, maybe your thoughts, your actions will align, and everything else will fall in place. So that's from my side. Over to you, Dr. Naila. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreyash. Again, lot of wisdom at a very young age. I am basically zapped, I would say, by the kind of wisdom coming out of, we all of us are far more as far as biological age is concerned, but these youngsters are, out to conquer the world. So thank you so much, Shreyash. Moving on, we have Miss Pragati Mittal and Mr. Sanjay Mittal with their son Arush. So can you please introduce Arush to us, ma'am?
Yes, thank you. The greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children and grandchildren is not money or other materialistic things accumulated in one's life, but a legacy of character and faith. Good evening to one and all present here. I, Dr. Pragati Mittal, along with my husband, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Mittal, introduce my son, Arush Mohit sir. We are the proud parents of two sons. Now, I am introducing my elder son, who was gifted to us by God Almighty, and we really feel blessed to be called his parents. Let us listen about his journey from him only. Thank you for giving me a chance, and to my son also. Thank you. Over to Arush Mohit.
Thank you, Ami, for that introduction. Good evening, everyone. I'm Arush, and I'm currently about to finish my PhD from IIT Kanpur. And I'm extremely privileged to be speaking to you all, and would like to thank LMA and Dr. Pradhan and Dr. Rashdi for giving me the chance to be here. So my journey so far has been very straightforward, and I'm definitely not qualified to be giving advice to everyone, but I'll just talk about whatever I've learned in the past 7 to 8 years. So just like Niharika and Dr. Manik, I did my schooling from Lamartine, and then I went on to do my BTech from IIT Kanpur. And after that, in 2014, I joined IIT Kanpur again as a PhD student. So as a PhD student, I am working on neuroscience. So and where so in our lab, we look at mosquitoes and how they are attracted towards humans, and how they can find us without being very complicated species. So my work involves looking at the brain of a mosquito and how it actually detects humans. So uh, so in doing that work, I have recently in the last year, I published a research paper, and which got awarded this year by as one of the top papers in India. But the journey to that research paper was not very straightforward, and it was filled with a lot of challenges uh, that might be relevant to all of you. So I'll talk about some of those challenges. So when I joined IIT Kanpur as a PhD student, I joined under Dr. Nitin Gupta, and it was he was a new professor. So he had just joined in that year along with me, and I was his first student. So there was basically no lab as such that was set up, and we had to start working on everything from scratch. So that was a really big challenge, because when you join a PhD, you expect to be given or to have some support, or to be given a project that you can start your work on. But I had to learn everything along with Dr. Nitin Gupta, and come up with a research project that we can actually spend our time on. So that was challenging, because you for doing a PhD, you need to figure out something unique, or some observation that no one has, and then you need to build on that and figure out some fundamental truth about that the problem that you have, or the observation that you have done. So that was one of the first challenges that I faced. So, and then I had to come up with not only the methodology that we had to use for making up the project, and also help Dr. Gupta with setting up the lab and all. So that was challenging, and it was also a fulfilling thing. So after reading a lot about some research, we came up with an idea that was unique, and that looked to us that had a potential to be developed into a research project. So we started with that. I'll not bore you with all the details, all the technical details of the project, but what happened was, so we were almost at the end of completing the project, and everyone likes to believe that whatever they are working on is unique. So in the research field, everyone likes to believe that they have a unique idea and no one else is working on it. But towards around in 2018, there was a paper that was published from a very prestigious lab, from the lab of a Nobel Prize winner. And they also had worked on the exact same problem, and they had published their research on that problem. And it was a setback because we also had been working for a long time on the same problem, and it was disheartening to actually see that someone else had published some research about that. And it's and in research, it's like once someone has looked at a problem, it becomes very hard to get a good publication out of that, or to like and you just need to build or your idea basically becomes like just a building up of just like a next step of the problem that has already been done by other people. But when we looked at the paper itself, we found that what we had been working on and what our results were very different from what the published paper had. And what we had was actually a much simpler and a much easier explanation of the problem that we had been working on. So that gave us some motivation that yes, what we are doing is actually unique, and it gave us some motivation to actually come up with, to expand our project and try to refute what the other paper had been saying. So, and it's not easy to refute a paper that has come from a Nobel Prize winning lab, but we went on to present our paper in a conference organized by the Society for Neuroscience, which is the biggest society of neuroscience in the world. And there we got a very good response. So that helped us in writing up our project, and we submitted it to a journal. However, there also, like, we face problems because it's a very long process of publishing papers, and uh, it's a long process of publishing, and we faced rejection from 2 journals, and finally the paper was accepted in the 3rd journal. So whatever I learned from this whole process of publishing the paper and coming up with the idea was that you need to have a belief in your own idea, and you need to stick to your idea. And even if someone else has said something else about a similar thing, you need to uh, have the courage to take your own ideas forward and not just defer to whatever whatever a senior person has said. Just like Niharika had mentioned that lawyers in India kind of defer to what the seniors say. So that is one of the learnings that I had from this project, and also to keep on persevering and to refine your own idea so that it gets published in a better it becomes better itself and gets published in a better way. And so during all this process of doing a PhD, and I'm about to finish it right now. So these challenges that I faced were not easy to face alone. So for that, I had the support of my parents, obviously, and the lab members that I had uh, in IIT Kanpur. But one of the things that really helped me in facing these challenges was the work that I was doing with the counseling service. So the counseling service is an organization in IIT Kanpur that uh, looks towards helping students out mentally and academically. So by mentally, I mean that you all might have been hearing about suicides that happen in IITs. Lots of people just give up towards the end, and under lots of like peer pressure, academic pressure. So counseling service is an organization that helps people in that aspect, and we encourage people to come and talk to us. And there is a team of students along with a team of psychologists and psychiatrists who help out the community. So that was my kind of foray into giving back to the institute, to the community that had helped me during my time in my PhD. And uh, so and this challenge of mental health much more prevalent in the postgraduate society, because when you are in an undergraduate degree, you have lots of people to talk to, and it's a less stressful environment, and lots of people are there. But for a postgraduate, you don't really have lots of people around you. You only have your lab members, and the work itself is very stressful. And like the people in corporate would also relate to this, because there also the work-life balance has to be made, and the work itself is very stressful. So when I joined the counseling service, we had the challenge of engaging the PG community with the counseling service. So we kind of so there's an orientation program that happens for new students. So in that, we kind of introduced a new system where the existing postgraduate students would mentor a lot of other new incoming students. So using that system already existed in the undergraduate setup, but there was nothing like that for the PGs. So we introduced that kind of system, and that actually helped the both the incoming students and the current students to actually interact with each other. And we saw like a lot of engagement with the counseling service and the within the general community and at large through our efforts. So whereas earlier people would just be restricted to their labs, or even people were like just restricted to their rooms in the hostels, and now we were seeing that people started interacting across departments, across within their hostels. So that led to an increase in the uh, inter like uh, a general increase in the interaction within the PG community. And through and I joined the counseling service in 2015, which was my second year of PhD, and then I continued working with the counseling service, and I've seen that the interaction grow even more over time. So from that experience, I've kind of learned that you should not isolate yourself uh, within the community, and it is uh, very important that you talk to people around you, uh, uh, talk to your peers, talk to your juniors and seniors, and try to build a community which would help you in going about your life, and it will also keep you stable and healthy and mentally healthy. So yeah, those were like most of the things I wanted to talk about. Uh, and thank you, LMA, for providing me with this opportunity. I'm not sure how much was useful to all of you, but still, thank you.
Thank you so much, Arush. That was some real scientific learning we did today. Uh, I am sure you have a long way to go as a neuroscientist in future, and yeah, all the best to you. Mr. Rajiv Pradhan, are we going to take some questions? Ravi?
We are, ma'am, I don't find any question in the chat box, but of course, if
Is there
somebody.
would anybody like to, maybe we can take a couple of quick questions?
Sure.
If
Professor,
anybody wants to.
This is Praveen Kumar. Before we go to the questions, I would welcome Professor Kirti Narayan. She has been an educationist. She came I believe, a little late, but she has been an educationist par excellence in Bombay, and I don't know how much she known in Lucknow, but my sons were taught by her.
Okay, wonderful. Very nice.
Welcome, Professor Kirti Narayan. We look forward to your involvement in such events more often. Professor Kirti Narayan.
Any questions, please?
Students and other guests, any questions anybody would like to ask? Okay, so we conclude that there are no questions. So, it was a brilliant session, and all 5 achievers were like, it's an eye opener that last edition we were dealing with we talked to relatively senior people. This time it was youngsters, and I would say the quantum of wisdom is still there. And thank you so much, Niharika and Arush and Anurag and Shreyash and Manik. Thank you so much, and the parents.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
And thank you, LMA, for giving me this opportunity to be moderator. It was great fun.
Wonderful, ma'am. Let us compliment you for the time management. In fact, this time, really, you have been able to do it, make it in time very much. So now it is time to propose a formal vote of thanks. Though Mr. Mathur is also locked in, but he's not keeping well. I'll request our Senior Vice President, Mr. Praveen Kumar Dwivedi, to propose a formal vote of thanks. Over to Mr. Dwivedi.
Thank you very much, Rajiv ji. I think it's been really a very, very enlightening session for all of us. Maybe if we can call ourselves seniors, but I think the biggest learning these days is from the millennials and the Gen Z. These are the people who we all approach for any digital challenges or any at every household. I'm sure all of us are taking help of our young ones. My daughter teaches me a lot of things. She's been with WPP and any creative skill or computer skill or everything. So, but wonderful. I think the kind of discussions which today I can see that I have taken a lot of notes, because the point is that the way Niharika spoke with such a huge amount of confidence, which comes by the way of exposure which she had to different countries. So what she said about building a network, a lot of management lessons which you all learn by doing your MBA from with no, I think, offense to any institutions, but I think what people would have learned today, students from IILM, is a lot of important takeaways: how you upskill yourself, how you network, how you be kind and humble and helpful to all the people. So thanks a lot, Niharika, I think it's been really a very, very good talk which you delivered, and of course coming straight from someone who has lived through that. So thank you very much to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's really a pleasure listening to you. Of course, Mr. Manik Gupta is our dear friend. We meet very often, and we'll keep listening to him and the kind of in-depth insights which he offers on the particular subject. I think all of us should certainly take advantage of that, because yesterday we were in the session on the state budget, and what came out is that agriculture is something which is being really looked at as one of the big opportunity for career also, and what Mr. Manik has offered, of course, and he has given some insights. We must take advantage of that. Manik, thanks a lot for your coming today and taking out time and sharing your inputs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Of course, in terms of Anurag, I was really very much touched by the words of Dilip Saab. I think it's amazing, and I'm going to share with my team. We all feel for it, the struggle one goes through. There's no, I'm not saying that someone should really get very emotional and very touchy about it, but it's certainly very, very important that how you come out, how you bounce back with circumstances, and which is what there's a lot of learning to get from what Anurag shared, and especially being yourself. What 4 C's he talked about, in terms of courage, confidence, calmness, and being composed. I think पूरी गीता का सार अनुराग ने बता दिया, जो शायद गीता ना पढ़ के भी उनको इन्होंने जो पूरा सबको आपको बताया. I think that's very important. If you learn these things early in your life, I think we are all going to be benefited. If a tech person is talking about all these things, which are life lessons. So thank you very much, Anurag, and thank you, Dilip Saab, for being here and sharing your thoughts. I think Shreya's Johri, of course, what venture he's started with, that is something which is very, very important for people to understand, that how you can actually set up something your own and then come back to academics, and how you also can, one of the things which a lot of these youngsters have given a challenge, or maybe I can say created some rebels also in the students that who might speak against their professors now, because these are things which generally doesn't happen in Indian institutions. You are never asked, or maybe now it is happening, but generally you are never asked. You are asked to just keep shut and keep listening to what the professor is saying. But with the new education policy, that thing is changing, that it's more of student centric. All of us have to actually learn from the students' experiences, and that's where we have to offer solutions. Today morning, I was sharing some thoughts with Ruhelkhand University. There was a ideathon on the startups, and while listening to what Shreyas offered, I could relate to that. What he's doing with Path, I think excellent innovations, how they happen. How you can break free from the traditional route. So thank you very much, Path, Shreyas, for sharing your thoughts and inputs. And lastly, of course, Arush, the way he described his journey and as a research scholar, the way he's going to contribute in neuroscience, I'm sure that's going to be amazing. Something like that, we cannot even imagine how someone can look into the brain of a mosquito, and how mosquito reaches to the, to the men. I think all of us keep struggling with all those odonils and whatever, good night and all. But someone is doing a research on that and going to help us in a big way. That's an area which we all will look forward to, and a lot of insights, a lot of, I think, interesting part about his research he has shared. So thank you very much to all the five of you.
Sir.
Thank you. Arush, thanks a lot. So I think the whole program, the way it has been designed, I think more and more people will suddenly get attracted to this, because coming from some people who have experienced this, who have gone through this in the early stage of their life, because many a time people like us or senior to us, when we say, or to our children also, they would not listen, but when their peers say things, I think many a time they would listen. So we would encourage more of our LMA members and their children joining this. So thank you very much, Madam Naila Rashdi, ma'am, for, I think, such wonderfully moderating this and keeping it so interesting with your comments and thoughts about everyone's inputs. Of course, the organizers to this, Praveen Kumar ji, has been very, very active and proactive. I met him the other day and he was engrossed in that coordination. Rajiv ji has been, very much completely involved in this, and this is certainly very, very inspirational, which keeps everyone active in LMA. This is a series, and it is really making us all, very, very active and inspiring. So thank you very much, all the participants who have joined today. Heartfelt thanks to everyone for making such a interesting session. Hopefully there'll be questions coming beforehand, before the session next time, so which we can get some time for that also. Thank you very much. Over to Rajiv ji for a final closer of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen ji. Thank you, one and all the participants for their participation, especially the young generation, our young managers. Many thanks to Dr. Rushdi for wonderfully moderating the session once again. So thank you, one and all, once again. Please stay safe, take care, and stay safe. Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.